the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I just quickly want to remind everybody that we are live streaming the board meeting tonight. Again, thank anyone who is joining us live virtually, and also those who might pick up and watch the recording at a later date. Always great to have community members involved and want to hear what's going on with the school corporation. So we'll start with consent agenda items. So if we want to have a motion for approval for consent agenda items, please. Earl? Second. Second, Travis. Is there any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. And now we'll ask if there's anyone present who would like to speak on any item that is not on the agenda, and I believe we have two. Yes,
the first one is Liana McKinney.
Okay, who was the other person? Maybe they want to go first.
Brad Ponsler. Would you like to go first?
Absolutely. Hey, Brad Ponsler, Indiana Farm Bureau. So appreciate the opportunity to be here this evening. I've just got some information to share. Been in touch with Superintendent Brown and Assistant Superintendent Johnson. So we've got an initiative with Farm Bureau to promote a broadband speed test to get to our communities. So we're just asking, our members, non-members, farmers, anybody in the state. We're doing this statewide. So to get better internet service, to everywhere. So we've seen the need of that from farmers, agribusinesses across the state. And so I just wanted to visit with you on that. I do have something I'll hand out with you. I think you guys have already kind of shared it on, with teachers and principals and that sort of stuff. So it's pretty easy. Just you can go to the link, and we're trying to create a map statewide to continue to show the need to legislators that we work with on the need. So I'll hand these around. It's got my contact information on it as well, my business card. So I just wanted to kind of share it with all of you. I know I've been in touch with Superintendent Brown and Assistant Superintendent Johnson. So just wanted to share it with all of you and kind of share our efforts, what we're trying to do, not only here in Jennings County, but across the state.
I got a comment about this boy. He played on a football team. We went to Floyd Central. They were undefeated. We beat them 46-6. Their head football coach got on the school bus. Do you remember that?
That's been a few years ago, Coach.
Yes, but you always remember the big game.
I do. I do.
So he's a good football player and a good man.
Thank you.
Thanks, Coach. That's been a few days ago.
Yep, like it was yesterday.
So, but again, appreciate the opportunity. And if, Farm Bureau, many of you know our insurance company, but I work on the advocacy arm for farmers, agribusiness people, and, rural Indiana and, all of Indiana really. So, but that's, I work for the parent company, just to make sure you're clear. But my contact information's there, and again, appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad.
Thank you, Brad.
Liana?
Good evening. I noticed all of you stood up and said the pledge to allegiance, but I also know that there's 5 members on this board who does not believe those words that come out of their mouth. When we say liberty, that means the right to choose, the right freedom to choose. In October, there were 3 very distinct speakers that came before each one of you and about the mask mandate. One speaker was a grandmother And the grandmother said, hey, my grandchild has had 3, this was in October, 3 upper respiratory infections from being masked, which goes along exactly with what Dr. Fauci said at the beginning of the pandemic. He said people be touching their masks, breathing in bacteria, causing more harm to their health than good. Masking is not good. Another parent came, the first parent came, and he had all of this research about how masking does not work. The third one came up, said, I have a child who's a kindergartner who is regressing educationally because of being masked, okay? Then another parent came up and said, hey, this isn't about masking our kids. This is about the funding you all get. Well, over the past, between the last school board meeting and this school board meeting, all of those things became very apparent and very true. Masks do not work because we had to shut down the school. And it is not about the safety of our children because you ran the school 2 more days knowing you should have shut down. It's about the money, okay? I'm just here to really point this out to you because you're not fooling anybody. Everybody knows that it's just running amok. So let's give the freedom and the liberty back to the parents, letting our parents choose what's best for their child, and stay out of our parents' business of medically what's best for their child. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you. So next on the agenda, we have some Stronger Together recognition.
We do. So we have so many employees who do an amazing job for us each and every day. And last night we celebrated our Teachers of the Year and our Operational and Educational Personnel of the Year. And tonight I thought it was important for us to celebrate some gentlemen who have been working so hard for the last, well, always, but the last 2 years in particular. So many things required us to change what we're doing in our schools. And these guys have stepped up over and over again. Most recently with the winter storm, they came in all over the weekend. They were plowing. I came in on Sunday afternoon. You couldn't even tell there'd been snow and ice here because they just had already cleared the parking lot so well. So greatly appreciate what these gentlemen do in our schools each and every day. They're just godsends. Even painted mason jars for us, didn't they, Debbie? They're just fabulous. So we greatly appreciate them. Wanted to recognize them tonight, just a small token of our appreciation. So when I call you up, if you come up and get your t-shirt and your certificate, and then depending on how they feel about shaking hands, you can walk or fist bump or whatever you want to do. Kelly Lovegrove. Thank you so much, Kelly. Appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
Marshall Boyd. Frank Lee. Thank you very much, sir. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate your leadership. Robin Moore. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Every day, not just today. Brian Helton. Shane Over. Thank you so much. It's like a Super Bowl week. Mike Rayburn. And the last but not least, Jeff Andis.
better.
Thank you.
He's a keeper. Thank you all again for your dedication to the corporation, to making sure that we meet our mission that's on the back of the wall, and for always putting kids first. Next on the agenda, we have Sand Creek Elementary presentation.
Well, thank you all for inviting us here this evening. We love the opportunity to talk about one of our favorite places. I'm so glad this evening to be joined here by two of the members of our leadership staff there, Assistant Principal Karen Pedigo and Tina Bates, our Title I instructional coach. These ladies are amazing, true cornerstones of our building. They just do an amazing job for our students each and every day, and so glad to be up here with them talking about our wonderful school. So we'll get started. We're going to start with our goals here at Sand Creek. We're going to start with our reading goal, and all of our academic goals. We'll talk about those. COVID has had an enormous effect on our impact on our students' reading levels. And, as teachers, reading teachers for many years, Tammy and I have been reading teachers for many years, we would see that summer slide, but nothing like COVID has impacted our children. So we knew we had to do some big things. And with the help of Nikki and the whole team of instructional coaches, we've come up with a good plan, and it seems to be helping our kids each and every day. And so what we've learned, our reading goal for 2022 year, to reach that 90% goal of Jennings County School Corporation to have 90% of our students reading on grade level, we knew that this year we had to be rigorous and get to 80%. So we're working really hard to get to that goal. Two of the measurements that we use are Fountas and Pinnell for our kindergarten and second grade students, and that's a one-on-one assessment where a student reads the book with a trained teacher or interventionist, and they code their decoding strategies in the process of their reading, and also they check their comprehension. And then we have our STAR reading, which is a computerized assessment that teaches assesses various reading skills that the student has and gives a reading level. So we understand that the integrated reading approach is the best approach for our students right now, and that involves word recognition and language comprehension. So this year, many of our teachers, K through 2, were trained in phonemic awareness strategy or program of Haggerty. So I brought a little bit of a clip of a Haggerty session going on in a classroom. This teacher is very engaging, and so I'm not going to blow it up because Seth has told me I can't. So you're going to have to look at it in that small little spot there.
Here we go. Ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. The word is blaze. Repeat. Blaze. Sum it up. Nice. The word is blow. Repeat. Blow. Sum it up. Nice. The word is flame. Repeat. Flame. Sum it up. The word is play. Repeat. Play. Yeah. Nice. The word is prize. Repeat. Prize. Chop it up.
Also phonics, it's not anything new. We've been doing phonics for years, but we're putting a really strong focus on making sure that we're getting that direct instruction, very explicit to the kids that need certain skills that they may be lacking. Part of the things that we're using for that is our Wonders, our reading series. So we're using our decodable readers. And then also sight recognition. So many of our students have sight word booklets that they're anxious to show you if you come into their classrooms, especially when they've reached that next level. They have these colorful booklets that they take home. It's nice for the parents because it's something easy that they can practice with their student at home. And then it's nice for our ESSER parents to work with the students in the classroom in various activities to build their sight word vocabulary. And then, of course, we know that students get better if they just get to read, and build that stamina for reading longer sets of text. So we want to make sure that we're providing enough time for kids to just be engaged and build interest for different genres of reading. So we're ensuring that we're putting that into our classrooms as well. You'll also see guided reading to work on comprehension skills and the standards there that they need to in reading. And we use comprehension toolkits. It just helps break it down a little bit differently so that kids can build those skills so they can really work on those metacognition skills that they need to interact with the text. And then our Tier 3 supports, our interventions, our Title I staff, an amazing group of interventionists. They are like little bees all day long, pulling kids into their learning lab and doing interventions from like almost 7:50 to like 3:15. It's like they hardly ever stop. They always have a set of kids in there working. And then the ESSA pairs, I will say that sometimes they've had to be used. I know Shannon would say, well, I think you've taken all of our subs for ESSA pairs. But sometimes they do have to be used to cover classrooms. But when they're not, they're always within the classroom, working with the teacher, working with those students in those guided reading groups. And it's just made such a difference to have that extra support in our building. So we're very thankful. And then just some of the interventions that we use there, level text, Orton-Gillingham strategies, Barton's for dyslexia students, and SRA. So that's some of the things that we do in reading. And I'll let Karen talk about STEM.
Your time to
Oh, I
shine.
hit that
Go,
one,
ready?
Steph.
1, 2, 3, hop! All right, so where does the
1, 2, 3, hop.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate the time being here. So we're very grateful this year to be working with STEM and 5-Star Technologies. Brian Stroud is their representative who is working with us, helping us become STEM certified over the next couple of years. It's very exciting for us. STEM is not new in our district, we know that, but the way in which we're incorporating STEM learning and STEM instruction is kind of new over the this year, and certainly will continue to evolve. We're working with Ryan on our first domain, which is developing a culture for STEM in the building. If you're not aware, over the past few years, STEM has been taught within a learning STEM lab. It was a self-contained room with the best STEM instructor you could ever meet, Mrs. Diana Robbins, in our building. What we're looking to do now is increase that culture throughout the whole building. STEM will not just be a standalone event, but it's moving out into the classrooms as well. We're very excited. Diana Robbins, who I spoke about, she's incredible, and she loves STEM so much that even though it's leaving her little space, and I just see her letting it go from her fingertips out to the classroom, and she's done nothing but be incredibly generous to all of the teachers. How may I help? What do you need? Where can I be to help you? How can I support STEM learning in our building? I just really want to give her all the credit in the world. So we're bringing STEM out into the classrooms as well as the STEM lab. What we're looking for is a true cross-curricular event with STEM. We do not want it to be any longer a standalone event. We are going to be sure that STEM isn't a part of our reading instruction, our math, our science, our technology. There's certainly lots of room for STEM to be a part of our building. I also want to thank Jen Lehman. She is the Director of STEM Education for the district, and she has brought engineering, I have to read it, it's such a tongue twister. Engineering is elementary, EIE kits to the building. It was like Christmas this fall. Jen sent over a big tub for every grade level, and within that tub were supplies for STEM activities, lessons, curriculum, videos. It was fantastic. So teachers got to spend the beginning of the year going through their kids and thinking through how that they were going to apply that teaching, not learning in the classroom. It's very exciting. You know, I was thinking over before we got here, the kinds of experiences I had as an elementary student. Now that I'm in the elementary school, I watch students experience things, they live things, they play things, they learn things that I never knew even existed when I was their age. And I think that's going to keep happening for us all. If we try to envision what our students will be doing when they are our age, I think that it's probably impossible to imagine, because I certainly couldn't have imagined standing here with a computer presenting to you. It's just really fantastic. So what we can do, and what we're trying to do with STEM, is teach our students the skills that they would need, depending on whatever career they may choose in their future, what kind of path they take, whether they have employment with a job, whether they're caring for their family. We want to have the skills necessary for them to succeed. And the design process gets us there. We are going to be teaching our students to ask questions, imagine possibilities, question what they've already found out, plan, create, think it all back through and try again. Those are the skills that we think, no matter where our students go, those are the skills that will be needed. And we're happy that STEM is going to help take us there. So when we think about employability, sky's the limit for our kids. We just really need to have them in a good space so that they're ready for that. Our grade level teams work hard every week, every month to work on how that they can plan for STEM best. They're real tigers. It's very exciting. And truly, with Diana Robbins behind them as their greatest cheerleader. Of course, another part of our first domain within our STEM certification is working on sustainability. Are we creating a system so that our school can sustain this effort? Will all the pieces be in place to keep STEM alive and well in our building? We certainly hope that it will be. That's our goal. So the M in STEM, of course, is mathematics. So it's perfect that the next thing that follows is our math goal. As a former math teacher, math and STEM are really of a high interest to me, so this was wonderful for me to speak about. Our goal is, at the end of the year, also 80% of our students being at or above proficiency on their STAR math assessment. STEM will be a partner with our math goal. We're wanting students to really understand the math that they're doing. Are they understanding the concepts beyond simple fact fluency? Very important, but we want to be sure that they're learning more rich mathematical concepts. Are they thinking critically? We know that's going to be a part of everything that they do. Are they strategically thinking about the work that they do? All of those pieces will help us reach that goal that we have. Like I said, as a former math teacher, as much as I know critical thinking and depth of knowledge and deep understanding of the work is important, man, we can't give up on those facts. We can't, and our teachers are not giving up on that. So they absolutely work on fact fluency. We're using the adopted curriculum, Go Math. Our teachers are working within the curriculum maps that the district has in place, and we're on our way to reach those goals. Thank you.
So family involvement, we've had to change over the last couple of years. Family involvement's always been one of my favorite parts of Title I. The last couple of years have brought some challenges to it, since we can't have everybody in our buildings, but we've come up with some ways to meet those challenges. We still have our annual meeting. We use Class Dojo for communication. We've done some take-home projects, book blast. This is a snapshot of what Dojo looks like during 1 week. This week we sent over 1,000 messages to people. And it's basically a texting app, sort of, that we use to communicate with parents. So our family involvement has changed. We've had a Make It Take It, Christmas Make It Take It for years. We went to a drive-through Make It Take It in 2020. And this year in 2021, we had a walkthrough event, and we still had over 200 people come. So we were pleased with, Even though they didn't get to stay in our building, they came and they walked through and they enjoyed being part of it. And we can't have them in a lot, so we started sending some things home. We did some turkeys. We asked them to disguise turkeys, and we had over 200 children bring in disguised turkeys for Thanksgiving. So it was, and then we did a book project, kind of like a science fair project. We sent home books with every child, and they could make a project, and then we gave ribbons, we graded them on a rubric, and gave out prizes for those. We had good participation with that. Then we had Book Blast. Book Blast was sort of a fundraiser of sorts. Parents signed their kids up and they asked for sponsors, and then sponsors just donated money. Some might have donated $1 or $5, but overall we raised a little bit more than $9,400 for books for our school. Those books went directly to kids and to classroom libraries. And then we had a mask reader. We had 5 staff members that volunteered to be a mask reader, and they used a Snapchat app, and they disguised themselves to read.
Oh, no.
Why is it not
Why is
playing?
that not working? See, some of you'll know who this person
Some
is.
of you know who it is.
I can't wait to share this book with you. I love the Magic Treehouse series. And this series of books have been written by an author whose name is Mary Pope Osborne. This particular book is called High Time for Heroes. And I really would like to read the prologue to you, and that will give you some insight into what the books might be about. One summer day in Frog Creek, Pennsylvania,
So she read the prologue and then invited the kids to join. You check the book out from the library. After they listened to all 5 mask readers, we sent the links out on Dojo so the families could watch them together. And then the last slide was to click on the mask, and they were directed to a Google form, and they guessed who the mask readers were.
And it was a lot of fun, especially the book class. We had a great time with that. I think that just COVID, it brought along its challenges, but as teachers, as educators, we're like, bring it on. We'll figure out a way to make this great for our kids and for our families. So it was just exciting. So I wanted to share at the end what our teachers have been kind of doing here recently with our e-learning days. It's hard to imagine, can we make that, as engaging and as exciting as it is to be in the classroom with the teacher? No, not always, but our teachers really work hard to do that, and they've been very creative and give kids a lot of opportunities to respond in really unique ways. So I'm going to share a couple of them here. The first one's pretty self-explanatory. It's going to be just a student actually explaining his math problem, the process.
I take 1 over 10 of 8 and make 7. And now I make 17. And 17 minus 9 is 8. And 7 minus 4 is 3.
So he's explaining how I got his answer. And then this next one, the little girl listens to 3 stories, and she has to choose the one she likes best before she does a compare and contrast type activity with them. And this one I think could go viral.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. I like the one with the working snowman. I like the one with the snowman at night and how to catch a snowman. I like all 3. Twit, 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 twit. I like all 3. Thank you for listening.
I know, right? Beautiful, viral. Beautiful. That's wonderful. We're going to get her in choir. But thank you again for this opportunity. We love to be at Sand Creek. We love our students. We love their colleagues that we work with. It's just a wonderful opportunity to come here and share just a little bit about our school. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Susie.
we'll keep moving down the agenda. Under new business, we have meal administrative guidelines.
Yeah, those are just in form.
Okay, perfect. And then go down under programs, special education update.
We do not have any beautiful singing in our presentation.
Wait, Mandy sings.
I was gonna say Mandy's capable.
So this is just an information, this is our RDA results from the state. So we're just gonna share with you the information they shared with us.
Okay. The first one just tells you what the areas of the calculation are. So what are they looking at to figure out our scores? They're gonna look in the results area at preschool data, our graduation rate, our least restrictive environment percentage, so how many kids are in a general ed classroom the majority of their day, and then looking at our assessments. The compliance areas is looking at our disproportionality when we look at the categories that fall into the different disabilities and suspensions, expulsions, that sort of stuff. Then we look at testing timelines, our transition IEPs, so those are the IEPs for those students who are either 14 and up or a freshman through senior. And then preschool timelines, and then the data just looks at our reports and are we getting them in on time. When we look at the calculation for the results matrix, we are put into categories based on the number of students we have in our corporation. We fall in the middle group, which is the 2,500 students to 10,000 students. So all the schools that are put into this group have between 2,500 and 10,000 students enrolled. The scores, they take all those schools and put them in a list with their scores. The top 20% earn a 5, the next 20, 4, and then so on. So when we look at our compliance and timely data matrices there, we had a 0% in disproportionality, which is really good with the discipline. A 0% in disproportionality with our racial and ethnic groups and the disability categories. 0%, I skipped one there, the 0% in our suspensions and expulsions in the racial and ethnic. And then the other three are evaluation. We were 100% compliant on our evaluations happening in that 50-day timeline. So parents sign a consent to evaluate. We have 50 school days to complete that evaluation and have the meeting. We met that 100% of the time. There are IEPs put in place for students who qualify before their 3rd birthday. We met 100% of compliance and meeting that within the timeline of having the testing and the meeting by their 3rd birthday. And then this was not a pool year for transition IEPs, but we did end up with 100% this year for those.
So the first area we'll look at is the results. So the iLearn there, the first group is percentage of students who are at approaching proficiency on iLearn Language Arts. And we had 26.81%, which gave us a 2. The state average was a 30.9, so we are below state average there. And this is state average for our medium group, our middle group. Mathematics, students with disabilities approaching proficiency, we were at 32.09 and the state average was 31.5. So we were a little above state average there. Growth, we were at 41, the state average was 42. And then for math, we were at 48 and the state average was 47. So our math scores were a little bit above state average and our language arts scores were a little bit below state average. For iRead, this was our biggest hit. iRead, we were at a 49.35, the state average was a 53.2. So looking at last year's scores, it would have been 3 years ago because we didn't test last year, or 2 years ago. We didn't test, and then these scores come from last year's data. So the academic impact of COVID, so for English language arts, statewide, schools were down 20.8%, and as a district, we were down 13.7%. So we are less than that COVID impact for the state, and then for math, it was 23% for the state, and we were at 14% decrease. So we're under that academic impact of COVID. For iRead though, the state average was 14.52 and we were at 18.5. So on the next page, we have a percentage of our students taking the IAM, the alternative assessment. We are at 1.17. The state, because it's a federal grant, the federal grant says we have to have under 1%. We are at 1.17. We have dropped down. The state average is a 1.11. For preschool performance data, we were at 69.89, and the state average was 59.4. Graduation rate, we were 64.1, and the state average was 78.6. And then least restrictive environment, we were at 88.34, and the state average was 81%. So least restrictive, that looks at our kiddos in the general education classroom more than 80% of the day. So the next page breaks down our data for the last 4 years, or 4 times that we've got the data. 2018 was the last year that we took iStep. Oh, I'm sorry, here, change the slide. 2018 was the last year we took iStep. So that 2019 data was our first year with iLearn. And then 2020, we did not test, so that's why the scores are the same. That was the year that we shut down in March for COVID-19. So the 2021, that is our first year, our first assessment after the impact of COVID. So you can see our scores have dropped down. There are some key areas in language arts that we're focusing on that we'll talk about at the end.
And it's important to note too with the graduation rate on that previous slide, that they look at the previous year's graduation because of the way the data comes in. So that data for graduation rate actually came from May of 2020. So that was the year of the shutdown. So graduation rate did drop because of kids missing some of that instruction and the earning of credits at the high school level. Okay, looking at the compliance, this one goes back to those compliance areas of disproportionality and transition. With the disproportionality of suspensions in the racial and ethnic groups and racial and ethnic groups in special ed in general, our numbers were too small, so we don't get a score there. When we look at the next one, the percent of disproportionality in specific disability categories, we were compliant and we scored 5. Compliance area 10, the percent of districts with the demographics, making sure that they're inappropriate, looking at whether they're in the appropriate category or not, we were compliant there. Looking at 11, which is looking at that 50-day timeline, which we saw on one of those first slides, we had 100%, and so we ended up in that top 20% with a 5, and compliant. The next one down is looking at the preschool and the compliance for getting them tested on time and a conference held. Again, 100%. And then, like I said, with the transition IEPs right now, we are not in rotation. We will be in rotation with the next year's data. Looking at the bottom part, continuing non-compliance, we have not had any continuing non-compliance, so those are not present in both those areas. And looking at that matrix change, we can see from the years that we look, we did drop a little bit there with 2019 because of transition assessments and changes in the way they were scoring that. And we can see that we were at 100% in our compliance matrix for the year 2021. Okay, looking at this one, this is going back to those scores again. We had 5s in every area except for 1, and that looks at, said it was untimely or incomplete, and that is because with the switch over to data exchange, our calendar was pulled incorrectly. And so we have fixed that, but they did not change our score for this, but they have fixed that in their system. And that was caused by the change. And then this just compares the different difference in the years, whether we were compliant in those areas. You'll see a couple years we had the no or not applicable for the I-Star KR because we had to fix that when we came in, and then we didn't have some of that with COVID. And then finally, when we look at our final score, they take all of that information and they put it in. And so we had, with our compliance and data, a 98.56, and then with the results index, a 56. And then that takes us to what level of corrective action or anything we would have to do, and that would be level 2, which is the second level. So we did have to submit some corrective actions, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, on things we're gonna do to help fix this.
So the next slide looks at our special ed numbers and our percentage of kiddos in special education. So you can see that we are on the rise. We are almost 80 students more from this time, or from December 1st. This was the December 1st count. So from December 1st, 2020 to December 1st, 2021, we were almost up 80 students.
And that number changes daily.
And our percentage of students is almost reaching 25%. So looking at ways to help bring some of these numbers down, we do have every one of our buildings are up in our special ed numbers, so we're looking at helping provide support for our teachers, our special ed teachers in the school buildings, and how we can provide that support and help bring some of these numbers down. So these are our areas of focus to kind of hit some of those key areas. We had, in the fall, we had all of our special ed teachers come in for corrective reading intervention training. This it really targets building the foundation of reading, and we're really looking at our K1, 2, 3, those kiddos who have missed kind of traditional schooling or haven't had a regular traditional school year, looking at really building those foundations in those early grades. Improving our district multi-tiered system of support and making sure we put that in place. Our district STEM and project-based learning initiative to work on getting engaging and hands-on lessons. A lot of our special ed students like hands-on manipulative activities so they can learn through the process a little easier. And then our universal design for learning. We're working to get professional development through the ICTQ grant to make sure at that level 1 or that tier 1 process, we're making sure we remove barriers to kiddos learning at that tier 1 process.
And then all of those things will have an impact on graduation. We know if we can get kids interested and on track early, they're going to be more likely to stay in school through graduation. But to also help that is that emphasis on graduation pathways. Finding ways. The pathways are key for a lot of our special ed kids because it's giving them more options to completing those graduation requirements. It's not simply they have to pass that I-STEP or that I-LEARN test anymore. Let's get them in something that's interesting to them, that's hands-on, that's meaningful for their future, and helping them get out of high school with a path to go on.
Thank you very much.
Does anybody have questions for Andy or Todd? Okay, thank you both.
Thank you.
So now we'll go down to support staff recommendations.
Yeah, I have Donna Bellick. She's going to move to the interim head cook at the high school. Hiring Devin Dial for Graham Creek Parapro, Jennifer Ford for Sand Creek Cook, Samantha Garcia for a Sand Creek Parapro. Rebecca Oliphant's going to move from the head cook position to a cook for us at Jennings County Middle School. Hope Wayner for Jennings County High School. And then Amanda Young as the high school girls head track and field coach.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept those? Pat, is there a second? Tony, any questions? Okay, all of those in favor? 7-0. So now we'll move down to finances. Start with donations.
Asking the board to accept a donation from New Bethel Church for $500 to Sand Creek for student activities.
Do I have a motion? Travis, do I have a second?
Second.
Pat, any discussion? we have a resolution. Philip?
Yes, I'm asking for approval for resolution to allow treasurer, deputy treasurer to make adjustments to the appropriations within the major funds of education, debt, operations, and rainy day to establish the 2022 budget for the current year from the state-approved budget order by major account classification.
Motion, Earl. Do I have a second? Second. Tony, is there any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. Now it looks like we're down to relations.
I received a letter from the Public Library Board asking for your appointment of a member. They have asked that Josh Yeager be allowed to continue and be reappointed by the board. So it's at your pleasure. Looking for a motion to do that, I suppose.
Okay, we have a motion. Travis, is there a second? Chelsea, any discussion? All of those in favor? 7-0. Just want to thank Josh for his work. I think he's served 4 years already, right? And so, what's that? Yeah, I know. So he'll continue to serve on the board for the library. So we appreciate the commitment and the work he's done. And then school portrait and service agreement.
Yeah, Sand Creek is asking for approval of their school picture service. So school portrait and services agreement between them and Barksdale Group. So that's for the next school year, 22-23, asking to accept and approve that agreement between them.
Okay, do I have a motion? Susan, is there a second? Second. Pat, any discussion? All those in favor? 7-0. Which brings us down to other.
I don't have anything.
Great. Well, then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Tony? Who? Chelsea? I'm sure there's no discussion, so all those in favor?